let's jump into Wade. Your first question for us for the night.
Yeah,
Just a little bit of an opening topic.
yeah. Let me just preface, guys. I mean, for anyone first time viewing, I'm a huge physical media collector. So is Jacob and Cam. Colin, are you a physical media guy?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay,
I
yeah,
probably
yeah.
got
He
We're,
looked
we're
over
all
at his shelf. He said, "He like making sure it's still there." Oh yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
yeah.
All
So, so,
200 or so of my movies on my shelf.
so yeah. So some of my biggest fears have always been, physical media dying out in favor of digital. So with the rise of streaming service platforms and sales of physical media dropping, it seemed like the first like nail in the coffin for it was last year, 2024, when Best Buy announced that they were no longer carrying any physical media in store. Uh, and Nintendo announced something last week before the Switch 2. It was just a Nintendo Direct, which may actually be the official burial, and I'll explain why I think that. But so last week, Nintendo revealed their virtual game card, uh, and this allows for game transfer from one Nintendo Switch to another, and even game sharing between friends with a virtual game card. And before I start on this, I want to say that I think this is actually the best form of digital gaming I've ever seen. It's truly like having a physical game card, but only on the interwebs. Um, but
Yeah.
Nintendo has usually been a mainstay for physical game and that kind of stuff. Uh, while other gaming companies have kind of tried to move away from it, and while yes, Xbox and Sony both still have provided some physical releases, but both have kind of made dedicated content that are digital only with no option of game disc. And on top of that, they make the game disc versions more expensive, which obviously because it's more hardware. But now Nintendo has provided a way to basically freely share and transfer your game data to new consoles or to share with friends without having the need for an actual physical game cart. And obviously they have some limitation for it. Like I think you can only share one game at a time with one person and it's only for like 2 weeks. But I mean this gives any kind of kids and parents who, don't like the stacks of games, there's absolutely no reason for them to even buy a physical game. So, everything's kind of neatly stacked for you in a database and easily transferable. So for me as
Dang.
an avid retro game enthusiast, I always will be purchasing the physical game if I can help it. Um, and I think there's still going to be collectors of physical media around our age and older, but they're becoming fewer and far between, and even people who are around our age are switching to digital just because of how easy it is. And I think right now, I think they're barely staying afloat with sales of physical. And, this I think is going to be an iceberg that hits the Titanic to officially start the sinking. So,
Dang. I can't believe this is actually happening.
yeah. And I mean, even the Switch 2, we'll get to that later tonight, but, they're actually not even calling if you look at the fine print, they're actually not even calling the games. They're calling them key cards. So basically just to like prove you own the game, and you have to have enough space, and it actually does the download of the game instead of like just having the game card is
So
enough to start and play. Like they're actually going to do the download like PlayStation and Xbox have been doing. So guys, is physical media on its last legs? What do you guys think?
I think it is. I mean, like, but if you think about it, in like 20 years, everything's gonna be digital. You're not gonna be able to go out and get a disc anymore. You know what I mean? Or like go to a GameStop and get a
You think
used
so,
game for
Cam?
cheaper. I don't know. What are these older games that are gonna become just in the web? You can't actually own it for real. You know what I mean? It's in your Switch, but they could discontinue the service, I guess, at some point, and the game could cease to exist. I don't know. Is that possible?
I think for sure it's definitely possible. And that's kind of what scares me about the future of like games or movies because Jacob and I are big physical media hoarders.
Yeah,
And so
hoarders. Yeah,
I like having it because I mean it's one thing on your system like the Switch and then you have the game like downloaded, but there's a lot with just streaming or in general access to this cloud. And it feels a little bit conspiratorial doomsday prepper of me, but like I just don't trust it as much. And I would like to be able to know that if something went down, even if it's just like power grid or whatever, and I've got one of those stupid little portable DVD players, I could play a movie that I want to see. It's stuff like that. And it is sad to think that one day that won't even be an option. We'll just have the old stuff that we can hold on to. So
Yeah, I definitely see it happening in the future. Just like you said, I mean,
I think
hard to say. We'll see.
Yeah, Jake.
I think he froze.
He
Jake's-
froze for
Jake's-
sure.
Jake's
Oh,
bugging.
no.
I think it's
This
on the
happened last
decline.
time, but we'll jump him back in a minute.
He'll get back in.
I have a thought.
Okay, Colin,
what
go
are you
for it.
thinking, bro?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Sarah because there's even like now companies will or studios will lose the rights, distribution rights to certain movies, and they
Yeah.
won't make it anymore, and then you can't get it anywhere. You can't get it on streaming. Like you have to maybe bootleg it offline somewhere. So if like there's a movie you really like and you don't have it physically, it goes off streaming. It goes off at, like even to rent or buy it. Like you can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's kind of scary
Mhm.
in that sense because I'm also a big digital guy too. Like I like having stuff like on my Fandango account or my Vudu. Like Cam and I share one,
Yeah.
and they have like really good deals all the time. But it's like, yeah, what happens if they lose the rights to like even distribute this? Like I won't be able to watch this anymore, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
That's
that's
the
the
thing.
thing. It's like it'd be great if we could have both,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it just the people are not buying physical at all. Like
Yeah, go to-
DVDs and
go to your
Blu-ray
Walmart,
sales,
local
4K.
Walmart, and it's
yeah,
like
they're so
it's sad.
down.
Yeah,
So
It's a great idea, you know what I mean? Like, because then it's very convenient. You could just bring your game
Mhm.
card. The little Jimmy can run over to Timmy's house and with his game card, plug it in, play the same games with his friend. Like he's bringing the disc over, basically.
yeah.
But what if you lose that, or what are they going to be doing? Selling their game cards, whatever, like their little chip, like online. This has these games inside of it. I guess I don't know.
it's like an NFT almost. Like you're selling. But that's not how it's going to
Get
be
locked
though.
out
It's
of
like
your
once you
account.
lose your console, I think it's just gone.
Dang.
It is cool to think about games having like a completely new life after you've finished one and haven't touched it. If you're not really much of a collector, you don't want to replay it. Yeah, the idea of being able to pass it on to somebody else or somebody else buying it and it just keeps living on
But
is
it's
great.
gone.
And you're right. Like what do you do when it's just all being stocked up, taking up your storage space?
Yeah. Hey
Oh.
Jacob, what were you going to say before you got rudely interrupted?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I can see physical media, movies mainly, sticking around for at least our lifetimes because of something like vinyl. They still press vinyl. Now it's become a niche. It's become a collector's thing. It's become an oddity almost. But I can see them still saying, if people are like, I want to own this album, I'm going to go get the vinyl. You know what I mean? There's people who are into that. I think they're still going to make collector's editions of movies for people like that. I don't think it's going to be mass market though. At most, it's going to be something like, I don't know, you can get vinyls like on one end cap in like a Target or a Barnes and Noble, something like that. Nothing too big though. So
What do you think they'll choose? 4K probably or Blu-ray? Like what's
I don't
gonna
know.
be?
I think 4K is pretty much the standard because the only disc players people are going to have are going to be Xboxes and PlayStations, and they can run a 4K disc, so that's fine. Now, what's
Absolutely
interesting, and you're
crazy.
talking about the death of physical media, is someone like me is always presented with the dilemma of I have a really nice 4K TV where I can tell the difference between a 4K image and an HD image. But there's movies now that they'll only release them on DVD and Blu-ray, but digitally they'll release it DVD or on up to 4K quality, because they say, oh, it's not worth making a 4K disc. Not enough people are going to buy it. Because if you look at a pie chart of disc sales, I think like 60% of disc sales are still DVD, and then like 25% are Blu-ray, and then only 5% are 4K. It's a pretty niche market, so. There's a lot of movies that come out now. Not a lot, but and especially not big things. But if a smaller movie comes out and they release it and they manage to release it physically, it might only get a Blu-ray where the streaming version is 4K, and that's where it's like, well, I think I got to go with the higher quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting predicament.
Crazy stuff happening. That's yeah. Wade.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because avid,
Yeah.
collector of physical media. So it makes me sad, but at least we have what we have, already. You can still buy stuff on eBay that's old, but like anything new, it's like
That's the thing.
hopefully they're still coming out with stuff like Jacob said, but we'll have to see.
Will the collections become more expensive? That's the question.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's
Retro
interesting
games
to
are
think
are
about.
still very expensive, and
Yeah.
they're only going up. So
Crazy.